Vanessa, can you hear me?
I can.
All
Hi,
right.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Glad to have you on today. So we are talking about what are we talking about today?
We're going to
Global.
talk about travel,
We're
global
talking about
luxury travel.
yes, we're talking about travel a little bit today, and actually a lot of it today, right? And so what I wanted to share for those of you who are watching or listening to this for the first time. So here's a couple things that you probably already aware of. So in the world today, um, there's a deluge of overwhelming amount of information about what safe traveling protocol should be composed of. And those of us that are, like myself, either travel with some frequency, need to travel at some point for business, or feel like they should, figure out what their options are when it comes to safe travel. You probably have questions like I do, and I'm sure many travelers do, which is it safe to travel now? What places can I travel to, right? If you want to sort of do a vacation. Um, what are the quarantine guidelines by state or by country? What are the best luxury travel destinations, which is where Vanessa comes in? What else? What other questions that people have? Travel distance. What do they are they practicing the best practice measures, safety measures to guarantee my health and safety? Where can I still go for my honeymoon and or next romantic getaway without fearing that I'll be exposed, right, unnecessarily to what's happening? What are the destinations doing to assist with the required? This is a technical question to address the requirements of a PCR or antigen test, right? What are the top 5 destinations, right, for people to travel to inside of the world we live in today for the year? And will I need a vaccination passport at some point, right? All these questions and more may not necessarily all be addressed, but I would say a good 89, 90, 95% of them will be addressed. And if you have any questions that sound like this is the episode that you want to be paying attention to. So the key question, though, when it comes to answering these is, who's the reliable source, right? What are the reliable sources for us to be able to get the answers to these questions? So who's the best, who has the best information or the most reliable sources to help me, if you're thinking about yourself, help you navigate the ever-changing and even sometimes confusing landscape of travel today. So if, as you're listening to me go through these questions and you're like, yeah, I got those questions. Yeah, I got those questions. I got good news. Okay. Good news. All right. My guest today is a travel designer, Vanessa Russell, who has a track record, guys, with helping today's luxury travelers answer these questions and more. And also, Vanessa facilitates one of my favorite words to use to describe anything. She facilitates bespoke travel experiences for those who love to travel in style and in luxury across the globe. Okay, so just to quote Vanessa a little bit here, according to Vanessa, right now there is a lot of white noise surrounding the topic of travel by Americans, especially, right? Many Americans are receiving mixed messages about what is and what is not true regarding where you can travel during the pandemic. And with the new executive orders in place, quarantine requirements, many are stumped, right, about travel. And she also, says that statistics are showing a current resurgence in travel in many international destinations as well, right? As we go into 2021. Now, if you're curious about, well, where are people headed, right? Like now that's there's a resurgence in travel. Where are people headed? She says right now, Mexico is is on everyone's radar. Okay. And she's recently been hosted by several properties in Mexico and just returned about just what, in the past 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe
Right.
something like that. Just returned from one of her 3 visits made throughout the pandemic. And today, she would like to offer her firsthand information, right, about the following. All right. Now, this is where you want to grab your pen and just lean in, right? So here's what she's going to be sharing with us about today. So what COVID-19 protocols and safety features have been put into place at resorts, hotels, or hotels, both in front of the house and in back of the house. Okay, this is key. The other thing she'll also be sharing with us information about today is how travel insurance coverage is working with COVID-19. Now, that's something that I haven't like really had to think a lot about, right? Since my trips have been like that. But if you are going to spend some time at a anticipated destination, that's something you want to take into consideration. She's also going to be sharing with us about how resorts and hotels are handling the required 72-hour PCR testing to re-enter the U.S., which was effective as of January 26th, right?
That's correct.
So about a week or so ago. And if you have questions about are all resorts COVID-19 certified by their respective governments, she'll have information about that as well. She'll also be sharing with us how airports are handling travel in high traffic destinations. I'm sure if you are planning a trip to a high traffic destination, you may have some concerns or questions about that. What transportation is like in destinations like Mexico or Costa Rica, and how are drivers ensuring travelers' safety? If you've got that question, Vanessa will be addressing that. And how has dining to include buffets changed at resorts since COVID-19? Right? I forgot all about that. Yeah, right. That's one of the experiences that's like communal and everybody gets together, and now things are a little bit different. So what's that look like? And what is the ranking system Mexico is using to provide insight into the country's COVID-19 status, and what changes in travel have happened from July till present? That's a lot, right? That's a lot of information that we'll be sharing about, right? And discussing. And what I want to share with you is that even if we don't cover it all, don't worry. I can always have Vanessa come back. You can always get a hold of Vanessa to address the challenges or whatever it is that your specific questions are. So, all right. So just breathe deep and breathe easy. We'll get to your question in some way, shape, or form as it relates to this particular matter. So where do we begin now? So for those of you who are watching, right, if you've come this far and you're like, okay, this seems like I should stick around, I want to share with you, like, who should be listening and watching this right now. So some of you listening and watching maybe, of course, like I mentioned, and travel enthusiasts or aficionados trying to escape cabin fever, or know someone who can't wait to leave the country for a break, okay, after the year. Or after the year that we've just had. And maybe you're just curious about, wow, you're dreaming, you're going, oh man, it'd be nice to travel outside the country again. So you're dreaming of the vacation you were supposed to take last year, and now you're like, okay, I gotta wait for my next chance. And you've been putting it off, and now you feel like, okay, it's time to go. But if I'm gonna go, I'm gonna do this right. Or perhaps you're someone who just wants to know where you should transition to if you no longer want to make the U.S. your home country, right?
Right.
Or if you fit any of those categories, just in general. Today's guest, as I mentioned, Vanessa Russell, she'll be delighted, right, to address all those questions. And again, if you've struggled with cutting through all the noise surrounding travel, you're in really great hands today. So Vanessa, without having you wait too long, right? In the stands there, I'd love to have you say just, of course, I'm going to introduce you guys to Vanessa. You guys might be able to, I'm going to see how my screen setting is up here, right? Because I think we're able to kind of have a dual monitor situation here. So Vanessa, can you hear me? And I think I can hear you as well, right?
Yes.
Super. So thank you so much for being on today. Really, really, really appreciate you joining me sort of through serendipitous online training opportunities. You and I have been able to connect. And, I'm trying to remember sort of one of the things that got my attention. I think you shared a video of one of the destinations in Tulum. Is that pronounced correctly? Right?
Tulum, yes.
Tulum. And I was enamored. I was like, wow, that place is fantastic, right? And a friend of mine actually had maybe a couple weeks before you posted that video, had mentioned that they were planning a trip there. And I said, wait, they're planning a trip to go there? Here's someone who's showing a video of the actual destination. Right. I think they should meet, right? Like, and I wanted to sort of bridge that gap. And so So ever since, I've sort of been intrigued by, sort of your brand, Global Luxury Travel, and what that's about. And so I'm going to just thank you again for being on today. And
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're very, very welcome. And I know a lot of people are just hungry, thirsty, dying to just feel at peace, right? I mean, when people are traveling, I know for myself, like I want to feel like I'm escaping from my hectic life, right?
Yes.
To
Yes.
peace and entering a realm of peace and serenity, right? And so when it comes to that whole dynamic, one of the things that happens is, I mean, between getting frisked at the airport, well, first getting to the airport, right?
Getting there, right?
Yeah, getting to the airport. If you're someone who saws like a last minute heroic kind of person who sometimes like ends up having to hop into that cab just in time to get to the airport, to go through check-in and then get to the gate and then boom, get on the plane. That's already harassing enough, right? And then on top of that, the other thing that happens is you end up, of course, getting on the flight, and then you get to the destination, and like that's harassing enough. But then
I've got something for that. That's why you book with me, because I eliminate all those harassing elements.
Excellent. So then on top of all of that, you've got these restrictions, and you got to have a mask on the whole time, right?
Right.
And then of course, whatever the protocols are, and you're handed a Purell wipe when you get to the aircraft, and okay, got to make sure I don't catch anything while I'm in this, enclosed vessel, right? So we're looking for peace. We're looking for serenity, and you are the guide right now. You're the person we're listening to right now to give us some information about what's happening in the world of luxury travel, especially travel generally, but luxury travel especially, and how we should be best prepared. So right off the top of your mind, bring me peace, right? If I'm listening, like, is it safe to travel? Do I need to wait till 2023? Like, what's going on in the world of travel right now?
It's interesting that you mentioned the initial frustration to even get this process started. And that is the initial reason why you need a travel advisor, travel designer like myself, is because we cut out all of that, aggravation. One, the whole essence of using a travel advisor or designer is so that you don't, like you said, have to think anymore. So I'm going to tell you is pack your bags. I can even tell you what you need to bring, so you don't even have to think about that either. In the destination that you're going, what's considered, people don't know that there's things you shouldn't wear in certain destinations, like camouflage is not recommended in Caribbean. So just little things like that to cut out a lot of the frustration that you need. So that way we have somebody picking you up, taking you to the airport, advising you to probably get global entry or TSA pre-check or clear. So that way you don't have to get naked and do all those things and dance before you go through.
Okay.
That's something I always tell my clients to get. Mobile passport also, if you don't make it in time to get global entry. So that's where we already eliminate that first thought of frustration. And we're there to show you how to go about traveling safely. We're going to put you on a flight that's not going to be crazy full if possible. I mean, right now that's kind of hard to do because we are limited to where we're able to go. However, we're going to know how and where to have you seated on a plane that's going to get you, get you that aisle seat so you don't have to be worried, or get you that extra leg room. Those are little things that'll actually make your trip a little bit different, even for that short jump to Mexico. We already know the program that's happening in Mexico, how that Assure program is what they call it, how that's aligned with the policies and protocols for COVID-19 safety.
Okay.
So we'll educate you on that just so you're already prepared.
Yeah.
And then of course, we've established, my agency has actually established some relationships with properties throughout the full Yucatan and Cancun area, which I'm very, very proud of, that I've personally vetted.
Okay.
I know what's going on in destination. So that way I'm getting you to a place safely. Start off with a PCR test so we know you're negative, and then getting you to your destination safely so that you stay negative and have such a positive time.
The COVID negative and have a positive time. I like how you spun.
Yes, where negative is a positive.
All right, that'll work. That'll work. Well, I just realized as you were sharing and you specified sort of your role as a travel advisor, right? A lot of, I mean, everyday folks who are Priceline.com shoppers, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're, looking for a great deal and or Hotwire or whatever it is. So at what point do I need to recognize um, that I need a travel advisor as opposed to being a DIY traveler, right? I mean,
Right.
does it not matter? Like, what's the significance?
Well, I tell you this, and this is going to come
Here
off
it comes. Here it
slide.
comes.
How much is your life worth? Because it could cost you your life if you
Wow.
don't go with someone who has your safety as your best interest. Right now is not the time for a deal. Now is the time for safety to be your priority. I recently went live and talked to my audience about this. Yeah, who doesn't want a good deal? Of course we do.
Yeah.
However, if it would cost me an extra $200 or $300 to make sure that I'm somewhere safe, I'd be willing to sacrifice and pay that money. So you have to ask yourself, are you willing to take a chance on your life? Because now that's what it is. It's a life risk-taking scenario that can be avoided if
Mm-hmm.
working with a travel advisor. And I use the two terminologies because I design and craft and curate your travel so that your itinerary suits your desires.
Yeah.
However, I also am an advisor as the fact that I know what's going on before you know what's going on. We have staff that are working, we have an organization that works directly with the CDC, CLIA and IATA. Those are two massive entities that are working with the CDC, the WHO, TSA, and they are who we're governed and regulated by. So they know information before the public. And then that's passed over to travel advisors like myself, whose agency is IATA certified. So we have an IATA number. And that's another thing, when you're speaking to Priceline or Hotwire, or any of those companies, the individual that you're speaking to, they're technically not responsible for your safety, where I, the business owner, I own global luxury travel. Your safety is in my hands. So I carry an errors and omissions insurance of $500,000 or more to make sure that I guarantee my clients who book with me are safe. So do you think the person on that phone on Expedia or Priceline really has that forethought when they're maybe making $12 to $15 an hour? Probably not. And it's just to give you a better understanding, what is your safety worth?
Yeah. Excellent, excellent, excellent point. I think one of the things pre COVID, that we kind of took for granted was our safety in travel, right? And not just in some cases, our primary concern is more like physical safety. Of course, people don't necessarily anticipate that they'll get sick at their destination, but now it's like whether from or to your destination, right? That element is now added, right?
Exactly.
You would have been more concerned about what you get from when you arrived, right? But now it's like, well, what are you bringing, right? Bring it back,
Exactly.
and
That's right. That's
it's like
right.
there's this sort of even playing field with that. And to your point, in this day and age, um, sort of the cost of deal shopping now
It's a higher price
it's a
than
high,
just the,
yeah, it's a higher price point, right?
yep, it
And
is.
and so for anyone who's considering sort of business as usual as far as coordinating their travel, especially luxury travel, global destinations, it's probably in their best interest to ensure themselves as best an experience as they can have by having a travel advisor, and also maybe even say travel architect, right?
That
Um,
is correct.
to have you coming on board. So just to kind of add something here, for those of you who aren't aware and wondering sort of, sometimes I always wonder as I have conversations with professionals and subject matter experts like yourself, consultants, I always think like, where did they start, right? Where did they begin? And I just wanted to share for those watching that, Vanessa, who owns Global Luxury Travel, who she just mentioned, the story of that brand really begins for her, and of course I've got the benefit of having had this conversation with her, but I just kind of had to swipe it so I could just share with you guys who Vanessa is, right? And sort of like where this sort of passion kind of kicks off. And it's always important for me when I'm speaking with a subject matter expert, or anyone sort of who's just like, this is their lane, to kind of know the roots of their passion, right? Because I kind of feel like when someone's doing something like, it's like when they feel like it's their calling, there's a certain level of care that they bring to what they do, right? That the average person can't or won't, only because it's just not in their blood, right? And so I just wanted to kind of like share with you, and some of those of you, of course, who are now kind of wondering like, well, who is Vanessa? And kind of like, where does all this come from? Is I'm going to give you a little bit of background about her and how she came to be the owner and run this global luxury travel company. So it all, as all great stories, right? It always starts with childhood. And so for her, she grew up in Germany and really like fell in love with travel, right? And so seeing the world through the eyes of a child, in this sort of that age, allowed her vision to be, of course, as she might describe it as unique and kind of like, have an exquisite perspective, and to grow her brand now, right? Coming through that lens of wonder and awe and inspiration, that international childhood kind of gave her a different layer to look at travel through, right? And for me, I kind of maybe can relate to this slightly because I spent some of my childhood in Nigeria, right? So I kind of did a little bit of back and forth. And so biculturally, there's always like this sort of, you can see, in my case, I could see two worlds, right? And with those two worlds, there's just a different way that I approach it, a different way that I interact with the world. So, anyway, fast forward with that vision from her childhood days, she basically kind of infused that into her brand and spent several years traveling, for her own purposes, as well as personally vetting and curating some of the world's most unique travel experiences, right? And a lot of people, some of you watching, just don't even know these places exist, right? And that's one of the things that also is really powerful, right? When you're working with someone like this, someone who says, hey, look, if you've ever been to or ever want to go to such and such a place, check out this spot. I always love those insider tips as far as where to go, because it makes me feel like local. I don't feel like I'm a tourist. So anyway, right. All that said, all that kind of brings a certain level of deep understanding and wisdom when it comes to making your travel plans and travel arrangements. And of course, her personal taste is also infused into this as far as what right. She really appreciates as far as luxury elements. And I use that term bespoke, but I don't use it lightly, because when you are traveling internationally or to a destination you've never been before, you want to feel like it was custom made for you. Right? And so for her, she's been able to kind of leverage both, again, from her upbringing and from her experience, really create relationships with hoteliers who, across the world kind of see her as a personal confidant, like, people that ask her for advice, right? As far as what they can do to make your experience better. So for her, at the end of the day, it just comes down to, she feels like travel bridges gaps in our imagination. And she always just chooses to kind of bring that passion to what she does. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. I hope I didn't make you blush too much, Vanessa, just kind of tooting your horn a little bit about that. But I think, I think it's just always critical. It really is. Yeah. When you get to like really get a sense of who people are and what drives what they do, right. It always, kind of right. sells me. It has me feel like, okay, this is the person I want to talk to. So that being said, I want to share about some of the technical elements right now that are going on in the world. With regards to these safety protocols that you and I have just been discussing. So let's kick off with, let's go back to one of the things that's probably on people's minds. And I know you mentioned you'd give us some information. So what COVID-19 protocols and safety features have been put in place at resorts and hotels, front of the house, back of the house? Talk to us about that, right? Because that's something that most people people don't really think about back of the house.
Right.
Guys, just so you guys know, for anyone who's not familiar with terminology here, when I talk about back of the house, like, well, what are they doing in the kitchen? What is housekeeping doing?
Exactly.
To make sure that you're safe, right? Front of the house, it's okay. You're at the reception. You're, in the common areas, right? But like, it's also what's going on in the back of the house that also influences what is happening in the front of the house. So, can you tell us a little bit about that element?
Yeah, let's start with the back of the house because that is very important. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people don't understand or know that terminology, but that's really important because those are the people who are employees and staff and kitchen. How is the maintenance behind the scenes? Because if that isn't taken care of properly, then that can come to the front of the house and affect the client. So understanding that testing is being done daily on employees, understanding the rotation of employees, who is being assigned to said areas. For instance, in the dining facilities now, there's only one person per station that's actually serving. So you know that if
Mm-hmm.
you there on May 7th and Louisa was there and God forbid you went to that station and that's the only thing you ate, it gives a better sense of contact tracing. Or if Louisa, she was tested positive, they're going to know how many people were in contact with this person at that time. And I'll just give you an example. I went to a very high end, super high end destination, resort, beautiful place. And when I got home, they did contact me and said that someone at the property did test positive. Everybody who knows me knows I'm a what I call myself is a room service whore because I always take room service. But because they had such great contact tracing, they knew I had never come in contact with this individual because they knew where this person was at all times, which is very, very important. And again, it just reassures the client's safety, which was fantastic. The general manager from the property called me, with their apologies. But, I was fine. Anybody who knows me knows I have a been sick since, and I also have a compromised immune system. So this is very important to me to make sure that the person, the butler cleaning my room, that he or she is, good to go. The person who's dusting down or bringing my food. I know the kitchen, I've been taken to the back of the kitchen to show, look how we have things set up now. This is how we've changed, and this is the different logistical movement that's being done behind the scenes.
Yeah.
How we handle where we store, how we take up the laundry, for the sheets and towels and things like that. That's important to know to
Yeah.
make sure. And then we get to the front of the house so that you're arriving where they're taking your temperature, writing your name down, spraying your luggage, touchless check-ins, where everything is QR code. So you're
Mhm.
scanning, you're not having to touch anything. These are procedures and protocols that are put in place, and you want to make sure that they are being adhered to from every aspect of that property. For instance, if I go to entertainment at one of my favorite properties I went to, they made sure that it was a limited amount of guests. Everyone had on their masks, you know, but those are things you want to make sure when you go into the gift shop.
Yeah.
There's only a certain amount of people. If you're going to go to anything that's enclosed, you want to make sure that they're adhering to that protocol. There's one property, that same property, that has a coffee shop.
Hmm.
Just great barista. Everyone in there masked, but only so many people at a time. So
Right.
all these little attributes to continue that safety is really important.
Yeah.
And so that's why I took it upon myself to just go and see, are they continuous? Because I visited some properties repetitively,
Yeah.
July, September, and January, to see, are they adhering continuously? Have they changed any of their protocols and procedures?
Hmm.
And this is a place that I can say, okay, I've watched them consistently now throughout a year of the pandemic. I'm going to send my client there. My client has seen me there, and they can feel comfortable knowing I've been and nothing negative has happened as far as, me getting ill or anything of that sort.
Right.
So that's really, really important.
Gotcha. So essentially, just to sum up, what you're saying is, so there, so there's a cascade of protocols, right, that have now
Yes.
been established, especially and this is again a great reminder of the difference between if you're booking a place with Priceline or whatever, Trivago, you're not, I mean, sure, you can go
Privy
by
to
what,
that.
yeah, you can kind of go by what's published. And, airlines have like what they say, hey, here's what we're doing to make sure you're safe, da 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 da. But truthfully, in the speed of like, I just got to get my ticket. I'm not going to read through all of that, right? I don't know the significance of any of those measures that are being taken. I just want to get my ticket, right? And,
Right.
and so in contrast to that, in the case of working with someone like yourself, right, who is really committed to the safety and the experience, right, of your client, you've gone to the step of being aware of like, oh, okay, this is what this hotel's protocols are. They do this, they do this, and this, and of course, if you're communicating that to me, I can get that, right? As opposed to
Right.
scroll through a list of like 18 bullets of what they've done, da 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 da. Yeah. Give me my ticket. I'm trying to book my hotel, right? Like I just want to get there. So it's reassuring, right, to hear you kind of walk through, like even just what you just said about how from back of the house, right, housekeeping wise or dining wise, that there's one person assigned to your station, so it minimizes sort of like this confusion as far as like, well, if you were to return and someone contact traced and said, hey, someone at the establishment that you were just at 3 days ago has been, has tested positive, you're not going like, oh, well, who was my waiter? Oh, and then on their end, they're like, yeah, whose table were you at? Like that
Exactly.
can be really, really insane, right? To try
That
to
could
like,
be very mentally,
yeah,
because I knew who my butler was.
yeah,
I knew who,
yeah,
the way this is a really unique hotel. So they
yeah,
bring you in on your personal little boat. So I know who my captain was. I knew who the person who checked me in. I know who the butler that received me. I know the person who cleaned my room, and then the person who brought my food.
yeah,
So I literally knew the 5 people that I was in contact with, as did the resort. So
yeah,
they had to by law notify me, which I
yeah,
respect and
right,
appreciate.
yeah,
But again, going back over my stay, they could go and trace those 5 individuals and say, oh, okay, none of them were in touch with this individual who
right,
tested, and none of them were in contact with,
right.
to get our guests sick or anything. So it was really great to understand that process too.
Gotcha. Give me 1 second here. I just need to do a quick sound correction. Hang on 1 moment. I'm just gonna pause as well. Okay, just give me 1 second. Back. Okay, so let's talk about one of the strange things that I always get annoyed by, which is travel insurance. Okay, travel insurance. There's always that toggle that says, do you want to insure this trip? I don't have anything to do with this. Like, I just get so annoyed by the digital version of selling, right? Like especially when I'm not educated on what it's about. Like, what are you covering?
Right.
Like, I'll be there. I'm gonna catch my flight. If I don't make the flight, I'm gonna pick up the phone. I'm gonna call the airline. I'm gonna call my destination. I'm gonna tell them, hey, look, my car got a flat, or you know what I mean? Like, I missed my flight. Give me my money back. Give me a credit. Like, travel insurance coverage in and of itself is its own thing. But now, how's it working with COVID? Can you kind of break that down? What's covered? Like, what is exactly what annoyance does it alleviate, or is it supposed to cover for people? And then like now with COVID, like how does that come together?
It's funny that you give that scenario that if something happens, I'm going to do these things and blah, blah, blah. And it sounds easy that you're going to just pick up the phone and call
Right.
your flight and say, hey, I missed it. They're going to say, okay. And then you call your destination and say, hey, I might had a flat tire. And they're going to go, okay, can I get my money back? They're going to be like, yeah, no. So travel insurance, believe it or not, before I was in travel, I probably would agree it was a little annoying as well.
Mm-hmm.
But now, obviously, being in the business and getting a true understanding what travel insurance does and how it works, it's actually amazing. Because what people fail to realize is that this insurance begins from the moment you are getting ready to leave your home. So if you did have that flat tire, you're covered. You
Right.
know, with the policy and the company that I use, I don't get a plug from them, but I'll say Allianz is the company that I use. They're phenomenal. They've been established for over 100 years, and they offer something that I found that a lot of the other insurers, travel insurances, are not. This is
Yeah.
what luxury travel uses. Um, and just right now with COVID, that was really important to understand where travel insurance was going with COVID-19. And I can say, you know, I was insured with Travel Guard. So anytime I went on a trip for the whole year, they gave great policies for agents. COVID-19 hits, and this company no longer wants to insure travel agents,
Mm.
which is very disheartening. Not only that, but the differences of getting back 100% of your travel versus 50 to 80% is,
Yeah.
you're going to Africa or you're going to Australia, let's say Australia, because Africa's still open. 16 states are open in Africa, just to put that out there.
Mm.
Um, Australia, my favorite place right now, is closed to us. But for instance, if you were going to Australia and you spent $20,000 to go on a trip, and I've had clients spend that kind of money on a trip because it is worth it. And you know, this strikes, you know, what do you do? You know, yeah, you may have $20,000, but you would like it back if you're not going on your trip, right? So how do I go about getting that money back? Is it covered? Can I get it all back? You know, how is this going to be applicable? Well, with travel protection is what we like to call it. When we're soliciting it, I call it travel protection because it protects your investment.
Yeah.
And that way you're able to file a claim and say,
Yeah.
hey, Mr. Insurer, this has occurred. And because of this, which would be one of the reasons covered, I'd like to get my money back. Um, Cancel for any reason is one of the best types of insurances you can get. It's a little more costly, but it does allow you to cancel for any reason. And I've had clients who've had to use this even before COVID, but especially now with COVID, because if you did get sick from COVID, it doesn't cover you for the fear of, but it, if you were to get ill or if a family member got ill, or your child or something of that sort, it allows you to cancel with a trip interruption and get your money back. And that's really, really important. Not only that, if you're in country and let's say you need to get brought back to the US, like many had to do that repatriation, you're covered. If you need ambulatory services and you've got to get medevac over, a helicopter medevac can cost you anywhere from $200,000 to $300,000. So having a policy with a minimum coverage of 500,000 per person, it's really important. You know, dental, you could fall and hit your tooth, you know, while you're in destination. And if, God forbid, you do test positive for COVID and you actually become ill, it's going to cover you while you're in the hospital. And the one great thing I like about Allianz is that they do seek Western style medicine, or excuse me, Eastern style medicine, so that you're not left out in the cold, like, you know, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get some third world type treatment. No, they're going to have these contracts with some of the best hospitals and destinations so that you're getting the best care. And they're going to make it to where you don't have to be worried about coming out of pocket before you get treated. You know, you're sitting there sick and needed some type of medication or some type of treatment. You don't want to be trying to, you know, sign a document before they can treat you. With this coverage, you're taken care of. Let's say you have to do the quarantine because you have tested positive, but you don't become ill, but you're going to miss work, you know, because of that. You know, they're going to look to cover you in that circumstance to get you some of that money back. That's not going to be a full coverage, but they're going to a full repayment, but they are going to get you some of your wages back,
Right.
which some at this point would be better than none for 14 days. So that's one of the beauties about it, that it is covering you if you get ill in destination, regardless if it's COVID, if it's a flu, if it's a heart attack, a broken leg,
Right.
all those things are covered. And not every insurance for travel is covering COVID. So be clear. That's why you need, again, a travel advisor who's going to let you know you're trying to get for cheap. It could cost you in more ways than one.
Wow.
Really
So,
important.
and everything you just mentioned sort of those different elements, are they sort of, is it a tiered situation as far as how that, or is it one umbrella type of policy type situation where you end up, one,
It's an umbrella. So I'm giving my client the best. I don't to work with me, and not all agents do this, but my agency does. My name's on the line if you get sick.
right?
You're not going to think about anything else but Vanessa Russell. You book me, you fix me.
Wow.
And I need it now. I'm the same person that they call when they say, Vanessa Russell, this is an awesome trip. I just got out of the Great Barrier Reef. They don't call that person who just took them on the marine biologist that I just booked them with. They call me at 1 a.m. and say, oh my gosh, I'm in Greece. This food is amazing. So I'm the first person who comes to thought. Therefore, I'm going to give you the best coverage. And so I give you the cancel for any reason. So I have no qualms in knowing that you are fully protected, you and your investment. And so I give them that full, and it does give a breakdown of the information. As travel advisors by law, we're not legally able to define everything. So we do refer you to our broker, who we work with directly, because by law, we're not licensed insurers.
Right.
But the coverage is, it's really spelled out to where they can understand it. So if they have some questions, we can answer. But if they want definitions and things of that sort, we do refer them over. And then it also covers pre-existing conditions. Say, for instance, if you're a diabetic, that's technically a pre-existing condition. If you're a heart transplant recipient, those are things you think about are considered pre-existing conditions. If you have asthma, things of that sort, pre-existing conditions, and being covered with a pre-existing condition is very important as well.
Wow.
So those are just things and reasons why travel protection, again, protecting your investment, you and your money spent, is really, really important.
Gotcha. And then the with COVID component has to do with, in some instances, the travel protection one gets can cover them for the instances where, should they, become COVID positive upon return and not be able to get back to work, some of that cost is covered, right?
Right. Yeah, they want you to understand, Allianz doesn't want it to all of a sudden look different because it has the name COVID. They want you to understand you're covered.
Right.
That's what we do.
Gotcha.
Covered. If you're
that makes sense.
You're sick, regardless of the title of the sickness.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Because so many people and so many are using that name to it brings a little fear, and they're like, no, if you're sick, you're sick.
Yeah. So now, in some instances, I guess someone might say, well, I already have an insurance policy. I'm sure you've heard that, right? I already have an insurance policy.
Oh, okay.
So
I've heard that a million times. And but here's what people don't understand.
Yeah.
The insurance policy that you have, Blue Cross Blue Shield, I don't know, whatever the ones that they have, that you may have from your job or from your employer or from yourself, that ends the moment you get on a vessel, be it an airplane, a ship, or whatever. That's no longer applicable. Yeah. There's only one insurance in the world that covers you in the world that you may possess prior to leaving, and that's TRICARE. I happen to be someone who has TRICARE. I'm a widow of someone active duty deceased, so I have military privileges. So only someone with military privileges is the only person that's an American citizen, let me say this, that has an insurance that covers you around the world, that doesn't require you to take an additional travel insurance. Although I do, depending upon my trip. When I went to Africa, I took additional insurance, but that's the only insurer that will insure you no matter if you're on a plane, train, you leave America, no matter what. Blue Cross Blue Shield, all those other ones that you have, they're no longer applicable once you leave your home destination. So that's really important, because people do say that all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, like I mentioned, So now, zooming back out and into the world of the travel component, once someone kind of passes that phase of, okay, I've coordinated my trip, I've got my not my stylist, but my consultant, who's helping me with styling my trip, right? now they're thinking, okay, well, the resort, how are they handling, so PCR testing, you mentioned one of the things you wanted to share with us was how hotels are handling the 72-hour PCR testing to re-enter the US, right? Do they
Yes.
do they have
Mhm.
PCR testing on the site? I know I've seen it at the airports in some of the recent travel I've experienced. So how are hotels
Right.
handling that?
Again, this goes back to needing that travel advisor because not
Mhm.
every property, one, certified COVID friendly, if you will, or are they meeting the protocols every day, all day?
Yeah.
And two, do they have testing on site? What is the cost factor? Is there a cost factor? Are
Oh,
they housing you if you're ill and you
yeah.
become positive? If you're positive, where do you stay? Are you getting food? Do you have to pay for it? What about your laundry? You may have been gone for 4 days, but and don't have clothes for 14 days. All those little intricacies are another reason why you definitely want to book with a travel designer because we have the answers to that, to those questions.
Right.
And again, a reason that I've personally vetted these properties because I know where you're being housed. I know if and what the cost factor is, because that will vary depending upon the property. And then also the PCR testing costs, if there are any, and how that's administered. Is it done every day? Is it done upon arrival? These are really intricate information that you definitely need to know. And that is based upon the facility in which you're going to be staying at, because they do have some that are working with labs that are coming in and have a physician on staff, so to speak, where they're coming in and testing every day. Most resorts you can't check in until 3, but a lot of times we come early, 11:30. Am I getting tested then? So we have a concierge system set up for you so that you have no worries in regards to that. And they'll help email your information to the airline so that you're all set and you can continue enjoying yourself at the stay. But that is at the resort. But it is really very, very important that you look at the time that you leave versus the time that you arrive so that you meet that window of 72 hours of having your testing done. I just saw this crazy story, and this is the second one, where with their contact tracing, because this traveler was in a small group, one testing positive, they made them all quarantine. So none of them got to enjoy their vacation. So is that the protocol of the property you're staying at?
Yeah.
Are they doing that? If one tests positive, are you all going to be quarantined? And then she had no idea where they were taking her. She was so fearful. She was like, oh my gosh, where am I going?
The hotel establishment was taking them somewhere when they found out
He
someone.
videotaped it for 45 minutes and I watched it to see and understand, like, she didn't know what to do, who to call. Her phone wasn't getting a signal. Her friends and her had been separated.
Yeah.
There's really, and see, this is another reason why I can pick up the phone and say, hey, GM Daniel Scott or Roberto Rodriguez, I know who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
I have, Mr. Madhu, he's down there and he told me he tested positive. I want to make sure he's been moved to his room, blah, blah, blah. I know who I'm talking to at the hotel. I'm not just randomly dealing with anyone. And
Yeah.
so that's another reason why you need to book with a travel advisor. We know exactly what's going on because different protocols and procedures happen differently in different countries. This individual, she was in Jamaica, and so we've not seen a contact tracing where one test positive, you hold all the group. I mean, it's kind of unfair.
Huh.
So you need to see, does the law of the country govern that, or are they able to govern this by the resort?
Yeah.
Very important. Very important.
Yeah. You raised something that I, originally hadn't at all considered, right? I was just thinking the practical protocol of, um, you know, before someone comes back, let's say you take a 7-day trip, okay? The third day before your return, right? I think, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, third day before your return, do the test. But then to your point, you're saying, the third day of return, someone could do that test. One person turned out being positive, and then for the rest of those 3 days, you're all whisked away somewhere, right? In the name of being quarantined, and without a real sort of sound protocol or understanding, you just end up in sort of like a harassing situation because you just don't know what's next, right? Because you didn't plan on being in that situation where one person tests positive and all of a sudden everyone else has got to be, quarantined and not knowing, okay, well, we're going to be at such and such, not knowing what your next destination is going to be, right? Between that point, because they don't want you to expose yourselves to the rest of everyone who's at the establishment. I mean, that can really be insane. And I'm presuming what you're also saying is, as the travel designer, you already kind of know what those protocols are and how to still ensure that that person still has somewhat of a delightful time, even if they has a positive experience, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Even with a positive result.
That is true, because we had a agent who she tested positive, and she was down in the Caribbean, and she gave us kind of a play-by-play. So I put together a Q&A or FAQ, if you will, so that I would know these questions and answers. And she showed how they took care of her. Some things she mentioned was, if you're a smoker, bring extra cigarettes in case you get stuck. Bring those extra clothes, or bring cards or some kind of board game, maybe in case you get stuck in your room. Because once you're in that room, you cannot leave for anything. And so, have an extra game or two to play around. They're get a room with a balcony so that way you can still get access to fresh air. Food could be minimal, so maybe bring some extra snacks. I always travel with food. They're not giving you alcohol if you're at an all-inclusive. I always travel with alcohol. So she ended up ordering.
That's hilarious. I always travel with alcohol.
I do. I always just in case I can't sleep. I'm in a different country. And I don't want to mess up my circadian rhythm. Have something and to just calm me down and relax. But that's a factor to know, because she ended up ordering Modelo from Amazon, and they delivered it to her room, because the resort's not you're there to heal. They're already letting you stay, some of them for free. You're not going to get alcohol also. So those are just some things to keep in mind, that if you get quarantined, she wasn't ill, she didn't feel sick, she happened to test positive, so it is what it is. And she's from the UK, so she had to do her 14-day bid, if you will, and then retest, and then fly on back. But those are just a lot of little intricacies. In that instance where the one group got quarantined, see, that happened in Jamaica, and we don't know if it's just the property that facilitated that, or is that the way the country's doing things, because that they're not doing that in Mexico. It's that individual, but things could change. So that's why we're here, to make sure we follow how this process is going to continue to move throughout the pandemic.
So in the interest of sort of, as I go through all of the bullets that we have here, I realize that a lot of these, of course, are perfect FAQ type, questions that I'm sure you have them addressed in some way on your site as well, which we'll offer and share and put in the description section of the podcast and video here as well. And one of the things I wanted to walk through, because these questions are real, they're like, they have, solid answers, but of course, it takes some thinking to kind of think through all these questions, because these are questions we haven't had to answer before, right? Like, airport handling of travel, high traffic destinations, and what transportation is like in Mexico or Costa Rica, and how drivers in travel safety. So I wanted to do a scenario, right, with you to sort of like bookend this whole thing, where you can kind of like, you can answer the questions by really giving us a play-by-play, right? So I reach out to you.
A walkthrough.
Yes, exactly, right? A walkthrough. So I reach out to you, and I think you mentioned there's an event, or maybe like a big destination type offer that's happening. Let's say I want to, Cinco de Mayo, right?
Right.
Okay. So I'm thinking, all right, Cinco de Mayo, and one of the areas right now, as you mentioned, there's a resurgence as far as interest in travel to Mexico. Okay. So I reach out to you and I say, hey, Vanessa, I'm ready to, figure out the details of this trip. We connect. Okay. So now walk me through like everything, which also includes, addressing some of these things as far as destination and travel, because now if it's resurging, that means there's a lot of traffic heading to that airport. So walk me through that whole process down to
Right,
my, let's say I'm taking a 7-day trip, right? For this Cinco de Mayo sort of
right.
weekend trip. So walk me through that whole process to my return.
Okay.
Yeah,
And it's a great holiday that you picked because I do have a trip there that's going to be May 4th through the 9th.
yeah,
And so with my clients, what I always do is I want to first have that phone consultation.
right.
Because I need to get an understanding of where you are as far as what your level of knowledge is on travel. Have you ever traveled before? And so I always tell my clients, please don't be offended, but I'm going to talk to you as though you've never traveled before.
Yeah,
Because I need to make sure you know every attribute in which is this trip is going to entail, from
right.
your passport date of expiration, to understanding how now the airports are set up. So I'm going to let you know, just to give you a little background about who I am. I always tell them, so they
Sure.
understand my level of knowledge is not what I read.
Yeah,
I've been there, done that. That's something I can pride myself on saying. Where you're going, I've been. I know management, so that can give you another sense of reassurance and peace of mind. And basically, what I'm going to do is go ahead and put together for you an itinerary.
yeah,
And I only use private transportation, and this is even before COVID. And the way the driver is set up, when he receives you, is going to take your name, obviously, and they're going to spray your bag. You'll also be required to wear your mask, and my driver will too have on a mask. Speaks perfect English, so that way you don't have any worries of communication. But prior to your arrival, you're going to be flying. There's a new form that's needing to be filled out on the plane, aside from your customs form, you're going to receive from your airline. And it's a digital form that'll ask you some questions and scenarios about COVID, your health, and things of that sort. And it's going to produce a QR code. I say screenshot that QR code just in case you don't have a signal when you get there, because that's going to be required in order to move through customs. And in the airport, there's going to be markings on the floor, as in the seating of the airport throughout the facility. There's markings for that social distancing requirement. There's also going to be the body temperature scan. You're not even going to know, but they will be scanning you. So just be clear and understanding that. And masks will be required throughout that journey of the airport. Once you get through, again, you're going to need that QR code to show them, and your custom form needs to be filled out completely. When my driver receives you, taking you to the resort is going to redo this process again. Bag will be sprayed. They're going to take your temperature. Your name will be written down. You'll walk on a pad where your shoes will too be sanitized, and then you'll go into that facility. All the staff are going to wear gloves. They're going to be masked, and the room that you're going to stay at will be sealed. So all the properties that I'm working with have sealed rooms, so that no one has been in that room 24 hours prior to yourself. So that way it reassures, again, the sanitization sustainability, because that's very important. And then again, it's going to have product throughout the room if you need an extra mask, if you need hand sanitizers. And this property too has elevators that are marked inside, so that you have the social distancing. Your your porter, he won't be in the room, in the elevator with you, just to out of respect. So you'll go up first to your room, and then he'll be on the next one to follow. Again, just keeping that social distancing protocol and reassurance. And keyless, touchless check-ins. So you'll have your bracelet that'll have your access to your room. Swipe that in, and you go into your room. And he's going to ask if he can come into your room or not. And it's your decision if you want the porter to come in or not. And then, you facilitate and have all your things there. The properties that I've been working with have had touchless menus, your QR codes on your television, QR code by the phone. So you don't have to touch anything if you don't choose. On your cabana, they've got a little QR code that you can scan, so you can order that Corona or that taco, and any of that thing. So that throughout the stay that you're safe. For entertainment purposes, they're going to have a sign-up sheet, so they know how many people are in that particular facility at that time. If you're going to go see a show, once they reach the capacity, because every resort in Mexico has a required capacity depending upon the status of the country. They are in yellow, or excuse me, in orange right now. So right now they're between 20 and 40% capacity, which is great. So that way you have total access to the property, and a lot of one-on-one treatment too from the staff, which is phenomenal. Again, they're going to be watching the schedule of entertainment so that way you know how many people are in this particular area at a specific time, which is really important.
Right.
Even if you leave property and I've booked you a catamaran and they put you up, they're going to take your temperature, write your name down, hand sanitization. When you get the catamaran station at the port, that procedure is going to happen again. They're going to kind of go over their COVID process. They're going to take your temperature again. They're going to hand sanitize, and then they're going to walk you over to the catamaran, where a normal 40 passenger catamaran is about 14 passengers now. Okay. Staff fully masked the whole ride.
Wow.
Once you get to your destination, that destination, all of the vendors fully masked. You know, they're still adhering. I've been to small towns throughout the Yucatan where there's no tourism and a little grandmother riding her bike and they have on their masks. So they're very adherent. If you go to a pharmacy, they're only allowing so many people in that square footage at a time. Yeah. So it's very, very controlled. I have to say they're probably the best at doing it right now. And that's just giving you an overall reassurance and a peace of mind. So that way, if you go off property, you're taken care of. And when you're on property, you're taken care of. And then, of course, as you arrive at property, we'll set up your PCR or antigen testing because either two are accepted to return back to the US. Gotcha. And it will be facilitated there. Now, at this particular property, the antigen testing 24-hour result is free. The PCR testing is $75. And that can take anywhere from 36 to 48 hours to have the results. And that's done right there. They have two properties at this location where I'm going to be having my Cinco de Mayo party here. One will house you if you tested positive. They'll provide you food, you know, all the necessities, obviously, to live and stay. And they'll be doing laundry service and all those things. And they'll be obviously escorting you over to that area where you'll be able to step out of your room onto a balcony for fresh air. And you will be quarantined literally for 14 days. You will not be able to leave that. If you're traveling with a partner who doesn't test positive, they have the right to stay there in that same quarantine room with you, or they can choose to return to their origin. That would be up to you and that individual.
So is that the boy bye moment?
That's when you say, bye-bye, thanks for playing or paying. Oh, so that's what that fully looks like throughout the process. It sounds like a lot, but it flows so easy that you don't even feel that that's happening. You're just in it. You're so in it, but just keeps you prepared to understanding what it is.
Gotcha. Okay, fantastic. So yeah, this this really clarifies sort of step by step the whole experience, right? And you mentioned something about red and orange and yellow statuses, and that I'm not as familiar with. Can you speak to that? Like, what does that entail? What's that about?
Okay, so throughout Mexico, they have the stoplight system. I actually follow the governor of Quintana Roo, Joaquin Carlos. I follow him on social media and stays abreast upon where
that's specific to Mexico.
This is specific to Mexico. And so they do have this color system that they're doing. Obviously red, means, you know, orange, proceed with caution, yellow, kind of even better, and then green, fantastico. So that's how they're, and then those dictate the percentages in which the hotels are able to book. So in a orange status, you know, that's how that
makes perfect clear. Makes perfect sense and it's clear. Okay. So in summary, and just let me pull my reference points up here. You actually went through all of this. The last thing for those foodies out there is how buffets are handled. And we didn't talk about the food part, right? Like people
Which is the best part.
Yeah, the food and the beverages and all of that. Like, how do we manage that? Because part of that experience is really communal, right? And
it really, really is. Yes.
So how's that being navigated with regards to buffets and I think you talked about the socializing part, right? Where you there's a show and all that.
as well as the eating and the dining component? Like,
Well, the dining component has changed and it's been done throughout, which is great to see. And of course, Mexico has some awesome cuisine. I have to say that first.
Yeah, no doubt.
And you never want to miss out on all of the things that are there. And that buffet offers a vast variety of everything. Right. So what they've done for every that is in a buffet, they have the plexiglass over it, so you can kind of point and say, yeah, and try some of your Spanish out. And then you'll have your individual person who's working that station. So for instance, a salad station, you could say, I like, and point out what you're wanting, and that person will fix your plate, which is nice, and give it to you under that plexi. And been done. I went to several properties, literally several properties where that was the exact same thing. Or they had the double plexi where there's just this little space where you could just reach in and kind of grab your own thing. But if it's like a hot area like omelets or pancakes and things of that sort of where you need to have the brisket cut or something, they've got one individual who's going to serve your plate.
Okay.
It's really, really done in that dynamic where they've got the food covered. I never once really felt unsafe when it came to the food. I have to say it was handled really, really well.
Okay.
Really, and everything's so fresh, because if they're cooking right then and there. So even though it's a buffet, a lot of it's being made, kind of on a continuum.
Right. It's
really
awesome. Stagnant meals sitting out there.
Right. Excellent. Right. They don't want them sitting under heating lamps. They've gone away from the heating lamp thing. That's like a thing of the past, which is a fantastic thing.
Yeah. So in short / long, but still short, relatively speaking, with regards to how many other questions people could naturally have about what to take into consideration, what to bring, what not to bring. I think if of course, I'm watching this live, and for anyone else who's kind of getting this after the fact, there's a part of me that's really comforted in hearing about what travel is like, right? As you did that walkthrough, I'm thinking to myself, wow, I arrive, I get a driver that picks me up. So first of all, I'm speaking to someone, I'm coordinating with my travel designer who kind of walks me through, who gives me the blueprint, really, right?
Right, exactly.
What my travel is going to be like right now, okay? And me, I love blueprints, right? My background is, technical as far as engineering wise. So I always enjoy blueprints.
A great schematic. Right?
Yes,
I'm here for it.
Yes, I always enjoy
have that background too.
I'll walk through like, okay, this is what my trip is going to be like. And so like that provides one level of assurance. And then the level of assurance is talking to the architect of this document, right? Or this outline or this checklist or whatever that I'm in correspondence with, and telling me, okay, Bowie, here's all the details. Here's your ticket.
This is it.
Your insurance is covered, right? So you don't have to worry about like all of that. It doesn't matter. You're insured. Here's your ticket. Here's when you need to arrive. Now, I was going to say, does a driver come and get me from my house too? Or is that something you guys can
That is something that can be arranged. We've done that from stateside, pick you up to make sure you're there on time to get on that.
Absolutely, right?
Of course.
So
knocking on your door, Bowie, come on now.
Is it? And I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta. So I have this day where it's curated. I get to my airport. If I'm a global traveler, a TSA pre-check, right? There's that element to handle or to address. And I get on my flight and I arrive at my destination. There's a private driver who's first, so there's no loss in translation experience.
No.
All that protocol. They take me to my destination. I've got a keyless access experience, right? Plus or minus whatever those touch points are from disinfecting and spraying and wiping down anything. I get to my room. My porter arrives in the elevator to come after. My room's been sealed 24 hours in advance.
Yep.
My porter delivers my product or my bags, right?
That's right.
And I've arrived safely, right? And now in this environment that I know front of the house is regulated,
back of the house is regulated. And then the reason why I can be assured that it's all, up to spec is because my travel architect has already assured me like the place that I'm going is on point already, right?
Because she's been there, done that.
And not to say exactly, and she's been there, right? And has a personal relationship, phone call, speed dial relationship with the team. If there's something ain't right, she can say, look, you guys are giving my client, what? I don't understand this, right?
That's right.
Give them a third degree if, as
business.
needed. And so I'm now in this sort of pre-qualified environment that's safe and curated. And now I get to experience, everything that there is from the catamaran, and that's only one of the adventures, right?
One of them. We can take you to cenote, all kinds of things.
Exactly, right? So at least in this just catamaran scenario, hand sanitized, temperature checked, get on, everyone's masked the entire way to experiencing the environment. Upon return, I'm sure similar protocols, just make sure everybody's well. Dining wise, that environment is all curated because I'm hungry from coming back after adventuring, right? And everyone's sort of like, managed as far as where they're going to be in the station wise. They're not like cross station mixing.
That's right.
The person who's serving me these particular items at this particular station is going to stay where they are, and this person. And so that way, technically, if I never ate at that station, right, or whatever it is, they know, right? And I can identify like, oh yeah, I never ate over there. So I don't have to worry about if that person were to be COVID positive, if there's like a contact concern. So all that said, and then 3 days before my departure, should I, if everything's negative, I get to gradually, similarly, take my my driver, gets me to the airport, blah, 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 same thing, right? Head back safe and sound. If I should test positive, I'm covered by my travel insurance, right?
That's right.
That says, hey, if something happens, you're gonna miss a few days of work. We got you, at least in some part of whatever your anticipated wages would be, and and for the duration, in some cases, the hotel will keep you for the 10 days or 14-day quarantine?
14.
At their own cost beyond your last date, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
And in some cases, if you did have the insurance covers that if they charge for those days, correct?
Right.
Maybe.
Yep.
Is that part of the policy as well?
That is correct.
Okay, great. So that's covered there. And then food-wise, if you need some extra smokes, you should have brought some with you because your advisor would have told you. If you need to travel with your adult beverages, you should have had that as well because your travel advisor
right. That's it.
That's it. And ideally, your travel advisor would have perhaps counseled you and said, hey, make sure you get a balcony situation, or if you need to be relocated for quarantining, you should be in a balcony situation so at least you have access to fresh air. If you're with a partner and they decide to say bye, right? They can leave you behind, or they can stay quarantined until the 14 days are over. Food can and of course will be provided for you during that quarantine period because you cannot leave that particular space.
Correct.
But upon that 14-day window, you can now re-enter, come back to the States safe and sound, and that, of course, rounds up the trip. But for the most part, all efforts have been made to make this a fully sanitized experience, such that is not supposed to be your, last day spent, right? Your outcome.
Exactly.
You want to be on the test negative side and then be able to return as planned. But should anything happen, you're also covered. And so that, I think, summates everything that you are and embody as far as the new global luxury travel experience.
That's right. Our new ultimate social distancing collection. And that's what our portfolio consists of. And you'll see that on our website. And those are going to be personally and privately vetted venues that are boutique to mid-size locations that we have personally vetted so that we can allow you to social distance on your own terms.
Wow. Okay. I think everybody can dig the sound of that. I think we already feel sort of like being told what to do, right?
Exactly.
Somewhere we feel like, well, if I'm going to social distance, I'm going to social distance on my own terms.
And we make that happen for you with the Ultimate Social Distancing Collection. Our portfolio we've got of curated properties that we've literally vetted, and we're building a componental relationship with.
Mhm.
They understand this is what we're doing, and so they're making sure that they stay at that level to keep that peace of mind available for clients.
Gotcha. And so just because you just mentioned your social distancing properties, like what are some of the top three social distancing properties that you
Well,
offer?
some of the fabulous ones, I have to say, Rosewood Mayakoba, they were phenomenal and amazing. That's an amazing
It's called
property.
Rosa Mayakova.
Rosewood
Oh, Rose.
Mayakoba.
Okay.
One of the biggest golf tournaments they play is at the Mayakoba Golf Course,
Okay. Okay.
Mexico. They just had it about a month ago.
All right.
Another wonderful, amazing property that was gracious enough to host my agency was Yashita.
Okay.
And it's spelled with a J, Jashita, Yashita. That's a property that we're going to collaborate with in 2022 and do a full buyout where we'll have just our, me and a couple of other agencies will just have only our clients at this buyout. We'll be having some really neat experiences throughout that property. There's only 30 rooms, so it's amazing. Private beach. It's
Okay.
located in Tulum, so you
Okay.
still get the essence of Tulum, but on a level that's next level.
Mhm.
And another phenomenal property over in the private island of Holbox, which is in the Yucatan of Mexico. It's Villa Flamingos. Those are just a few that we've partnered
Okay.
with, myself and a few other agents that we've looked to do a buyout. Again, that one's only got about 24 rooms.
Okay.
So that way we can guarantee that everyone that's come, because they will have had a negative test first.
Yes.
Now, again, social distancing, own terms. It's an in and out type style property, beachfront on a private island.
Mhm.
It's amazing. No cars. It's just phenomenal. And I've been there.
Okay.
They've hosted me as well. My agency is proud to say.
Yeah.
All the places that I've mentioned have been gracious enough to host us, and these are 5-star properties, so they're fabulous.
Excellent. 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 Well, look, it's been a pleasure having you on
Thank
and
you.
having this conversation. And, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking like, man, there's definitely some anticipated episodes that I have in mind where some of these questions that people just have about, you know, they already existed, right, prior to the era that we're in now, but all the more now as far as how to navigate and jet set responsibly.
That's right.
I think there's definitely some pressing questions. So it'd be great to have you back. If people want to get a hold of you, where should they go to learn more about global luxury travel, you know, and benefit from your services and counsel and travel wisdom?
Well, you can first start by visiting my website, which is www.globalluxtravel.com,
Mm-hmm.
or you can find me on social media like Instagram and Twitter under Global Luxury LLC. I'm there. And of course, I'd love to speak with you directly. I'm here for you to pick my brain. You can reach me directly at 813-917-4122 or toll free 86558-1003, because I do have some people that call internationally. So if you want to call me that way, and I'm on WhatsApp +1 813-917-4122. I'm always available on all platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter,
Okay.
you know, so they can reach me that
Excellent.
way as
Excellent.
well.
All right. Awesome. All right, guys. So for those of you who are tuning in to this grind scheme of things episode, I want to thank you for watching and or listening. Today, we just had this conversation with Vanessa Russell, who is a travel designer, travel advisor, and also I also would refer to her as a travel architect, who's all things bespoke luxury travel. And if you have enjoyed this and valued the wisdom gained and gleaned, definitely reach out to her as it pertains to you and your global travel exploits. And for those of you who, of course, want to stay in tune with the grind scheme of things or stay in touch with me, of course, if you're seeing this on YouTube, Facebook, follow the like, of course, the video, and follow the channel. There's more relevant content as far as it deals and pertains with you in your entrepreneurial journey or professional journey.
and being able to have it be clear, right? As far as the paths that you need to take in order for you to kind of master what you need to master and take care of what you need to take care of, and stress less and have more peace of mind along the way. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching, and we will see you all soon. Vanessa, we'll touch base and talk soon about some
Thank you
upcoming
so
trips.
much.
Sounds like the Cinco de Mayo trip might be an appropriate adventure to consider. And for anyone who also is considering that, I would say take the initiative to, well, it's called the social distancing.
The ultimate social distancing collection.
The ultimate social distancing collection. You can social distance on your
on
own
your own
terms.
terms. That's
All right,
right.
Vanessa, thanks a lot. And we'll be in touch. All right, we'll see you soon.